Well, this was not what I was expecting for a review of this film. Hello, Hasmouse Users here, and okay, first off, yes, I know I said it would be a video game review, but please understand that this is a bit of a priority review to get done. So, Eternals. Oh boy. So for the first time ever, Marvel we've got an MCU film that is generally mixed in response, as in mostly negative. Now this may seem like a bit disappointing, but considering the Marvel Studios has been making a movie since 2008, and only now they got a film that's been given a Rotten Tomatoes rating below, say, 60 to 70%, is actually a big compliment. It's really, it's a really strong argument that a film studio can make so many great films and only now have a film that's right around the 40s, the 40% rating. So, but in the end, you still got to admit that this is a disappointing film. And this is disappointing for me because I honestly had high hopes for this. I really did. I said in the Shang-Chi review I was more anticipating this film than I was Shang-Chi. But well, it looks like I got my predictions wrong. But so but we might as well just get on with the plot. So this takes place around the same point as Spider-Man Far From Home in terms of the MCU timeline. But moving on. So the Eternals are an alien race that are to protect all planets from a mysterious alien species known as the Deviants, who want to suck up all living creatures to bring in a celestial back to life. The Eternals set on Earth and continue to protect Earth's inhabitants from them while continuing off their own lives. And they last for centuries because they're immortal. Eventually, the Deviants are gone from Earth, and all of them split up because they have a falling out over how they should interact with the main people. However, when the Deviants return, the Eternals must band together, and they must learn how to cope with a new leader after their previous one dies from the Deviants. That new leader is Sersi, and she must try and get her friends back together to save the day. So when you look at the plot, it is a decent enough story, but you got to make sure you've got. But even then, it comes with a lot of risks. And the biggest problem with this film is how often it jumps back in time. Reminds you a lot of Captain Marvel, because it sort of seems out of order. I mean, you can establish how the Eternals showed up on Earth in the very first scene and jump straight to modern day times, and I guess you can jump back to learn how these guys separated. But the fact of the matter is, it keeps going back and forth between going back to the past and into the present. And even at one point, they go back to just before the events of the film actually truly kick off. So yeah, it's the fact of the matter is that the pacing and editing is very choppy. You also got to keep in mind that, which is the biggest problem with the story in general. But with that, and it doesn't help that when you get to this is a different sort of film, as it's more serious and doesn't really have much action. But when you get a comic book movie, you expect a bit more, and even then, with the exception of the visuals, the action isn't really that spectacular. I don't know if this was the idea for director Chloe Zhao, but I don't know if this is. And I think she's a really talented director, and you've got the whole team of Marvel, but so it's kind of strange that these action scenes are, I'd say, up to the standards of creativity of maybe even below Iron Man 1. Now, and I think another reason why the story doesn't work so well is with Captain Marvel. But I will give this with the story in general, is that with Captain Marvel, I never said it in my original review, but the biggest problem with that story was the fact that you know what will happen in the end, because Captain Marvel's obviously going to have to show up in Avengers Endgame. This is its own separate story, and it's after Endgame, so this is their first. So should be a bit more interesting, but you know, it doesn't really matter. And you know, I mean, and when you look at it, while the actors do a good job in this, not all the characters are interesting, you know? I mean, you have a few. I mean, you have one Eternal who's basically a teenager who wants to, you know, age, actually, so she can experience the pleasures in life. You have one who is a mechanic who wants to bring technology to humans earlier than expected, and when he witnesses what that happening in World War II with the bombing of Hiroshima, he sort of loses all hope and sort of retires and seems to set on for his life with a family. Who is probably the most interesting character in the film of the Eternals. And then you get one who's a Bollywood celebrity who goes along but doesn't want to hurt his friends, and when they get pitted against each other, and one who is living in the Amazon to protect humans even though he shouldn't, and what he's protecting is basically enslavement. Yeah, it's really strange, these characters. Even the main character Cersei, played by Gemma Chan, is okay, but she's nothing special. And her ex-husband, played by Richie Madden, okay, he is so confusing and so bland. And then you get even more confusing things like Angelina Jolie's character Thena, who is basically a god and the most powerful of them all, yet she's very timid, like a child. So yeah, it's really strange. With that said, there are some cool ones. I mean, this is the first time we get a silent MCU character who speaks in sign language, which is actually pretty cool, actually. I really think she's my favorite of the Eternals. Plus, even though he doesn't appear in the film too much, Kit Harington is Dane Whitman, who will eventually become the Black Knight. Although that's a big thing, is that the best things in, which I will get to later, what another major issue when I get to one of the positives, which could be interpreted as a bit of a problem. And I guess you got to keep in mind, so although these characters are, considering you have to find a balance of, you know, they're old, they've been around for centuries, yet they should be interesting, but you know, some of them are very robotic. But with that said, I do give credit that the actors themselves all do a good job with what they're given. And you know what, I will give, and even though the characters themselves, some of the humor actually works, I found myself laughing a few bits here and there, but whether it was awkwardness or actually being funny, but you know what, it's still enjoyably fun. Still got some humor to it. Plus, I will give credit where credit is due. I love the fact they actually travel to different places that the MCU hasn't been to. I mean, they actually go to Australia. I mean, yeah, it's the Outback, but finally, an MCU film where the characters actually go to Australia. Great. They even go to the Amazon. Perfect. Give me more of that. But then you get to, and the post-credit scenes are actually really good, honestly. But here's the thing. They're setting up characters that, you know, will be important later on. As I said, Kit Harington will later be playing the Black Knight. You've got Eros, aka Star Fox, who is Thanos' brother. Pip the Troll, who were introduced in one post-credit scene, and the other post-credit scene where Harrington's about to reach for his sword. You hear off-screen, I'm spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it before, but you hear the voice of Blade in the background. So, I mean, yeah, it's basically going to prove where certain characters may go in certain fights coming up, whether it be, say, in a fight maybe in the multiversal war against Kang, or, you know, maybe potentially Galactus when the Fantastic Four shows up, or maybe something to do with Adam Warlock, but with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but still, you're setting up interesting characters who aren't really mains in this film. I mean, yeah, Kit Harington is in this film, but he's not a major player. So yeah, and when you get to the ending, the climax in general, I mean, well, I said the visuals work well for all the action scenes, but the climax, there is about 4 different threats about villains in this. You got, I'm not going to explain what happens, but you've got a deviant who develops self-consciousness, the celestial being reborn with the Eternal, who the Eternals are trying to prevent, from the fact that their boss is a bit of a mysterious antagonist, and then I'm not going to give away more, but it's strange, So in the end, this is, definitely this is so far. I think I'm going to 100% confirm this as, even with Iron Man 2, For the Dark World, Captain Marvel, this is definitely the worst that the MCU has done. But to its credit, for Marvel Studios to release, for this being the Marvel Studios' 24th film, and only now they get a very more negative to mixed review, mixed movie, is a credit to them. How many studios can you give more credit like it? Even Disney with their animation, they've had, I guess you can argue they had a more long. Let's be fair, I think they released quite a few more negative and mixed films in the early days with their packaged films. Though to be fair, they had to deal with World War II during that time, but still. And I still say this is better than some of the DCEU films. And you know what? I still say give a look if you're an MCU fan, but I'd say if you're a casual film, maybe wait till we hear more from the Eternals in future films, TV shows, or crossover events in line. But yeah, overall I was disappointed, but I'm still glad I gave it a go. I'm going to give this now this is an interesting score. I'm going to give it a 5.9 out of 10 has stars. Yeah. Not quite 5. I'm not going full on negative, but I'm not giving it a 5.5. But I'm not even giving it a 6. So strange, but you know what? And mixed, but this is a mixed bag movie. This is definitely the biggest disappointment in terms of movies of the year for me. But overall, I'm still glad I saw it. But I think for many of us, I am going to say I am looking for. I still cannot wait for Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be disappointed with that. And I'm sure a lot of people are saying that will be feeling that way. But in terms of that, maybe, I don't know if this will happen, but I might go and see the new James Bond movie, but I cannot be certain about that. But, it may happen down the track. But I promise next time, video game review, Star Fox Adventures. Though, who knows, maybe I might do Metroid Dread instead. It just depends on on how things go with completion, But in the meantime, House Masterpiece is out. And I'll see you for my next review. Ciao.